Welcome back, third grade, to our third week of history. For this chapter, we're going to be going from page 174 all the way to 181. We're going to be starting chapter 9, and we're going to be learning about Merryweather Lewis and William Clark, or otherwise known as Lewis and Clark. So, let's go ahead and get started. Merryweather Lewis's family. Just months after Merryweather Lewis was born in Virginia in 1774, the colonists were battling the British in the War for Independence. Homes and plantations all around were being burned by the British, but little Merryweather's home was not harmed. The British officers decided to live in Merryweather's home during the war. Not only was Merryweather surrounded by the enemy during his early years, but he also was neighbors with the well-known Thomas Jefferson. When Merryweather was only 5 years old, his father died. Little Merryweather became the owner of his family's plantation called Locust Hill. Of course, the 5-year-old could not take care of the plantation himself. His uncle helped manage the plantation until Merryweather was old enough to care for it himself. But Merryweather did not stay at his plantation. His mother remarried again, and his stepfather moved the family to Georgia when Merryweather was 9 years old. Merryweather enjoyed exploring the land around his new home and learning to hunt. He was even given his father's hunting rifle. He loved the outdoors. He hunted deer, possum, beaver, turkey, and even bear. He learned to be brave and to keep calm when danger was near. Back to Locust Hill. When Merryweather was 13 years old, he was sent back to Locust Hill to learn to manage his plantation. He learned about planting and harvesting crops such as wheat and corn, but Merryweather was not satisfied with managing his plantation. He wanted much more out of his life. Adventure. Merryweather Lewis volunteered to become part of the Virginia militia and later joined the U.S. Army. During his time in the Army, he became good friends with his commanding officer, William Clark. Both men were hard workers and fine soldiers. When Thomas Jefferson was elected President of the United States, he began to look for an assistant. He remembered his neighbor, Merryweather Lewis. He thought of the adventurous boy he once knew, but also of the fine soldier Merryweather Lewis had become. President Jefferson asked him to be his private secretary and live in the newly built president's mansion. Merryweather Lewis was excited for this new adventure as the president's assistant. President Jefferson purchased a large piece of land from France. This land, called the Louisiana Territory, doubled the size of the United States. When the president needed someone to explore this new land, he decided to send Merryweather Lewis. Mr. Lewis began to learn things he would need to know for the trip: how to make a map, and how to find waterways, and how to study plants and minerals. One of his teachers was Andrew Elliott, the same man who hired Benjamin Banneker to help survey Washington, D.C. Merryweather Lewis knew he needed men he could trust to go with him on this trip. Who would he choose? He immediately thought of his army friend, William Clark. William Clark's family. William Clark was born on his family's plantation in Virginia. 5 of his older brothers fought in the American War for Independence. After the war, when William was 14 years old, his family moved west to Kentucky to a new plantation called Meriwether Hill. William loved hearing his brothers talk about the war. He couldn't wait until he was old enough to become a soldier. William's brother George, who had been a general in the war, taught him how to survive in the wilderness. He showed William which plants were poisonous. William learned how to hunt for food and how to make a shelter. George also taught William about traveling by boat on rivers. When he was 19 years old, William Clark's dream to be in the military came true. While he was commander of a rifle company, one of his men was Merryweather Lewis. The two men became trusted friends, and they were excellent soldiers. After his time in the army was over, William Clark returned to Kentucky to manage his family's plantation. But his friendship with Merryweather Lewis was not over. Merryweather Lewis chooses William Clark. Carefully choose the men to accompany you, Merryweather. You will need good, honest, hard-working, strong men, President Jefferson instructed. We will call your group the Corps of Discovery. Merryweather Lewis wrote a letter to his friend from Army days, William Clark, and asked him to help him lead the group. He knew that one man alone should not be responsible for such an important task. William Clark agreed. He wrote back, "My friend, I join you with hand and heart." The two would soon be back together again, making the most important trip of their lives. Other men were chosen who were young and strong. They would need to carry heavy loads, pack and unpack the boats, hunt, build shelters, and much more. As plans for the trip got underway, Lewis began to make a list of things to pack. It probably included things like, for equipment, they would need guns, axes, and ropes. Items for exploring, clothes, socks, blankets. For food, they would need jerky, coffee, sugar, and beans, and some stuff to trade in order to get new things. They would need bread, ribbon, kettles, and maybe even scissors. The list grew longer and longer with all the supplies they would need. Lewis and Clark would also need paper for maps and journals. They would need to write about what they saw and make a map to show President Jefferson all America that the West would look like. Unlike today, there were no roads to follow. The most common way of traveling long distances was along rivers and streams. Soon, all the items were packed and the boats were loaded. The men were ready to begin. A quick comprehension check. We're going to match these to the correct definitions. So number 1, a group of volunteers who help an army. That's E. That is a militia. Number 2, land that doubled the size of the United States. That's D. That's the Louisiana Territory. Number 3, a journey taken by a group of people for an exploration. That is B. That is an expedition. Number 4, name of the group that would explore the Louisiana Territory. That is A. The Corps of Discovery. Number 5, most common way of traveling long distances in early America. That is F. Rivers and streams. And there you have it. So that is the end of this chapter for our week. I will see you guys next week. Thank you.